Hi pumpkins. So I wanted to have another video, and this one's kind of similar to my other video that I had in regards of misbehavior in children. In the sense of, why are they misbehaving? Why are people looking at us crazy? Why are you get this judgment kind of look? So I want to touch that topic one more time, and I'll explain the reason for it. It's because, again, there is this kind of like a stigma, so to speak, of you're not disciplining your child. That's the reason why they behave that way. That's the reason why they don't listen. That is the reason why they're acting the way they do. But that's far from the truth a lot of times. A lot of times it's because there's underlying issues that the child has that we may not necessarily even know about. So what does that all mean? What am I explaining? So the reason for this conversation, the reason for this video is because I want to be able to share some of the things that helped us in our family, that helped particular children that came into our care, and maybe you can give me your feedback. Maybe you can give me your suggestions. What worked for you? What didn't work for you? So this way we can share ideas and tools with each other, because again, not everything is going to be cookie cutter. So something may work for them, something may work for them, but it may not work for me. But guess what? Something may definitely work for me. So I'll give you an example. We had a child that came into our care. We figured, okay, you know what? We had kind of a hectic weekend because they came into our care somewhat towards the middle of the week. We still had to work. It was a lot of chaos, trying to get daycare situated and things of that nature. And then, so like, you know what? Let's go out to the mall. We need some free time, so to speak. And that's what we did. We went out to the mall, and that wasn't the best choice, actually. We thought going to the mall in an adult world or even a teenager world, that would be fantastic, right? Who doesn't like going to the mall? You see things, you buy things, it's just fun. But it wasn't fun for the child that came into our care. And all of a sudden, we're both stuck with this child who's literally screaming and crying and kicking me, and I'm lost for words. I had nothing. I had no leverage to really give this child of like, hey, I need you to be quiet, because it wasn't happening. It wasn't going to happen. So I told my husband, you go over there, go to that one particular store. I see a bench over there. I'll sit at that bench. So what did I do? I literally sat at that bench, cradling that child in my arms, because again, I had no clue of that child's background. Keep in mind, when a child comes into your home from CPS, you have no background information of that child. You're given very minimal and limited information. And it isn't their fault. It's because that child's taken out of their home for safety and ongoing supervision reasons. Who's to say? I don't know, because every case is different. So again, you're learning, like I mentioned in a prior video, you're learning that child's characters, there's personalities backwards. Whereas a bio parent, you get to learn those characters and personality traits from the get-go, when they're born, when they grow into toddler years, and so forth. You already get to get a sense of what they like, they don't like, why they act a certain way, when maybe they're lying to you. You get a feel for it. You know what I mean? So, but it doesn't work that way for us in a foster care environment, foster care home. It doesn't. So I'm sitting there with this child, literally just crying and like screaming on the top of their lungs. And all I see is literally people just walking past with this blank, angry stare, if as though I messed up their day, if as though I've changed their whole plans and their whole life has been turned upside down because of this crying child. But they're not the ones who are going through the meltdown. They're not the ones who are actually having to deal with the situation. They actually have the luxury to just walk away. But rather than getting any type of, hey, do you need help? What happened? Any type of maybe a positive encouragement of a body gesture, I didn't get that. All I got was just people blankly looking rudely, if as though I've done something to that child, if as though I physically hurt them, or I've taken something away from that child to make them scream that way. But it didn't. It's just that child was experiencing something that we thought would be okay for them, but it wasn't. And I soon realized maybe this was a sensory overload for this child. Maybe this child has never been exposed to a large mall atmosphere with so many people walking around, so many laughters, people yelling, smells, other children. Maybe they weren't exposed to it. So what we've done is actually expose something to them that they weren't ready yet. And that caused a concern for that child, because now, keep in mind, the child's coming into your care, not knowing who you are, not knowing who this home is. Do they have pets? Do they have cats, dogs? What kind of animals they have? The smells, their bed, everything that they once knew is no longer there. Now they're placed in an environment that's completely foreign to them. So it's just same way if you go in public. So what did we do differently? Other than, I would say, maybe 30 minutes into that whole situation, handling it for the child, it's like, okay, you know what? It's time to go. After 30 minutes, need some waters. After 30 minutes, I said, you know what? Let's walk back towards the end of the mall and let's get going, because this isn't working. So what did we do? What did we implement into our home to help that child going forward? So since I knew that this could be a possibility of just the environment and just an unknown situation, we then said, okay, you know what? Let's start a consistent pattern of where we go. Meaning, okay, if we're going to go to this place, let's make sure that we stay going to this place for a while. The reason for that is because the child, once again, is taken out of an environment that's unstructured for them, that's not a regular environment for them. Now we're recreating that for them. So now they have, in a sense, some normalcy for them. It's the same thing as for us. We go somewhere to eat that's brand new, like, I don't know. I don't like the food too much. You know, it's like that type of situation. I'm used to going to this particular place because I know how much I'm going to spend. I know the quality of the food is going to be great. So it's, in a sense, it's almost the same way as for a child. They're already accustomed to a certain situation, a certain place. So we implemented that. That actually, we noticed right away that actually changed in a positive way. Sorry for the background noise. I have the windows open. I'm trying to get as much fresh air I can get into the home before the winter kicks into gear, because yeah, once winter kicks into gear, everyone's going to have cabin fever and we're all going to want to get out. Anyways, another thing that we implemented into our life to help those particular children with those situations was, believe it or not, it would be family time watching TV. And the reason for that, you think, oh, doesn't everyone watch TV? Not everyone does, actually. But we wanted something that would be maybe familiar to that child. So we would watch a lot of programs that would be based around Nickelodeon, Disney, because we knew that there could have been a possibility that that child was already exposed to those characters, to those cartoons. And if so, guess what happens? That child now has a connection to Mickey Mouse or to whatever's on Nickelodeon. Now with that connection, they then can be able to relax just a little bit more. And once they relax just a little bit more, what happens? You're going to have less meltdowns. You're going to have less frustration from that child because they relax, because they now have something that they can identify to. Believe it or not, it's that simple. Another thing, food. Oh my goodness. Who would have thought that food was going to be such a major thing with these children? We don't like to eat anything out of a box. We just don't. Processed food isn't something that we enjoy in our home. If I can make it from scratch, I would possibly do it as best as I can every single day. We stay away from fast food. We do go out to eat, but if we go out to eat, we need to make sure that the food is being made organically or freshly at that particular restaurant. When I mean organically, there's farms around our not within where I live, but in the outskirts where some restaurants actually go to these farms and get their product. Anyhow, that's besides the point. So food actually plays a major role in the sense of how your child is going to interact with you and how they're going to behave and how their social environment is going to be. Because if they're eating nothing but processed food, just imagine when you're eating processed food, how do you feel sometimes? You feel kind of sluggish. You feel kind of like, almost so like you feel guilty in a sense that you just had this hamburger from a fast food chain. I won't mention any because, yeah. But that actually plays a big part. But it's really hard to incorporate those healthy choices when a child has been exposed to processed food, because guess what? A lot of times in their environments, that's all they eat is processed food. They eat mac and cheese, but it ain't mac and cheese from scratch. It's mac and cheese from a particular store that's usually 99 cents and it's a powder pack. I don't know how any child can like that. I know I don't. But that's something that they enjoy. So what you can do, what we've done, is that we would cook a half of, I always have those in the pantry. I always have the cheap boxes of mac and cheese because again, that's usually what some of those children have been exposed to. So I'll make a half of the box just because I'm not going to eat it and I'm not going to have it to go to waste. So I heat up half of it or boil it, however you want to call it, and then the child would eat it and they'll be okay with it. But what I did is incorporate half of that food with a healthy choice. So then eventually, a little by little, I would take away those processed food and incorporate more of the positive or healthy choices, I should say, of their food items. This way, they no longer want those processed food choices. Now they want more of the healthy choices. And what that does is actually change something within their brain of like, okay, I can function better. I don't have this feeling of eating all this processed food. That changes their behavior, believe it or not. It does. It really, really does. What I love to give the kids for a snack is Greek yogurt or non-fat yogurt, and I'll mix it up with fruit. So with that, and maybe some granola depending on the age of the child. They love it, and that would normally have them ask for it all the time. One child says, can I have that for dinner? I'm like, sure, I don't mind you having that for dinner if that's what you want, because that was a healthy choice. And by you eating that fruit, you're actually going to get full and you're having a good, healthy intake of the food that child is processing. Because again, when you want to give them a hamburger, or do you want to give them the fruit, the yogurt, and the granola? I would really give them the granola, the yogurt, and the fruit versus a cheeseburger from a fast food chain. Because again, that's not a really healthy choice. That I've noticed changes their thought process, their behavior, how they interact socially with you and with others out in the public. And believe it or not, timeout does really work. There's different ways of doing a timeout. We took this class in the sense of trauma-informed something. I can't remember what the title was. It was a long title. But we had to go for a couple days, and it was all day. And pretty much what they said about the timeout of how you do it, what the benefits of timeout was, and if the child got up. So say for an example, let me just scratch that. So say for an example, the child did something that they weren't supposed to. Like, okay, that right there, that stool or that side of the room, you always want to designate an area within your home. Make sure it's not locked. It has to be open so that you can see them, but they're in a safe situation. So, okay, there's your timeout. Do you want to go in timeout? You sit on that stool. You have to sit on there for X amount of time. You don't want to go past, I would say, 5 minutes. you can go up depending on the age, but try to, depending on the age of the child, stay little. And because you gotta keep in mind, a child's attention span doesn't last very long. So say I have a 3-year-old. I'll tell that 3-year-old, I need you to sit on that stool right there, and you're in timeout for 3 minutes. They don't know. They'll say, okay. Guess what? In 1 minute, they're going to forget why they're in timeout. They will. So they're going to get up, play around, and then what you're going to have to do is pick them up, put them here. Nope, you weren't supposed to get out until I said so. So I need you to sit there for another 3 more minutes. Okay. Guess what? Another minute goes by. They do the same thing. They get up, and then you have to pick them right back up and put them. Nope. So yeah, in a sense, it's going to be a lot of work for you, and it's going to be a lot of work for them. But once you start developing that consistency with them, in the sense of like, okay, they're not playing around with me. This is not a game. I don't really want to sit there all the time for 3 minutes. So what's going to end up eventually happening is that, yes, they're going to get frustrated. Yes, they're going to run around. Yes, they're going to laugh because they think that you're playing. In a way, for them, you kind of are. But you're not trying to play. You're trying to show them and teach them, no, this is timeout time because you've done something you weren't supposed to. So maybe an hour later, you may be doing this because I did this for a whole hour and a half. And eventually, it clicked. All of a sudden, like, they're sitting there, and I'm like, well, I'll be. They're sitting there, and they didn't move. It took an hour and a half, but it worked. And I'm like, well, dang. If I would have known this, I would have done this a while ago. But again, these are things that a lot of us are not aware, because after 15 minutes of back and forth, we give up. We do. But you have to stay consistent because they need that structure. So once you're out in the public and they're doing something that they shouldn't be, and this isn't more of a sensory issue, this is actually a behavior issue, then you tell them, you need to stop that now or you're going in timeout. Guess what? They know what timeout means. They know that you're not going to be playing with them. They know I need to sit down or I need to stop. Which one do I want? I don't want to sit down for 3 minutes. I should just stop. That actually changes the pattern that they've started to develop. So you've taken a negative pattern, a negative ongoing trend, and created a positive outcome. So that does change in time. It's not going to happen right away. It's not going to happen in 15 minutes. In my case, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. But you'll get there. Anyways, I have a lot more. I don't want to keep rambling on. But again, leave some of your feedback below. Like, subscribe, and give me your input. Give me your suggestions, your tools as to what you incorporated into your home. Let me know what worked for you and what didn't work for you. This way we can kind of brainstorm together, because again, this isn't necessarily a foster family type of situation. This is a family environment situation. What can we do to help that child through their struggle that they're going through at that current moment? This way we can get less stares and less people looking at us, because next time I get a person looking at me, I'm like, sometimes that's what I really want to do, because it's like you have no idea of what it took to come outside, to be able to leave our home to make sure this child was going to be okay. Clearly it didn't work. So for you to give your 2 cents in looking crazy and to look at that child crazy without having any idea of what they're going through is a complete lack of disrespect that you've given that family and that you've given that child, rather than giving any type of mutual, I get it, or some type of gesture. That's all they need. So anyways, leave me your feedback, your suggestions, anything like that, and we can talk about it further. But thank you again, pumpkins, for listening to me vent, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.